The semifinals of the G1 Climax are set, and this weekend we will crown a winner. It's been a very good tournament inside of the ropes. Hopefully, some of the fans are starting to notice and show up for some of these events. It's been a mixed bag this week as opposed to just all bad news. But we have a really good semifinals to look forward to and 2 nights in the Ariake Arena to look at as we preview the semifinals, look back at how we got there. With Jeremy Finestone, I'm Stephen Conway. This is Speaking of Strong Style. Welcome, everyone, to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. Plenty of events this week. Jeremy, how have you been feeling? I'm sure you're current. I know you are, but a lot of shows to watch and some really good wrestling. How's your week been?
Honestly, Steven, it's been a whirlwind. I watched all the wrestling. I barely watched any WWE or AEW, just Dynamite for those that are nasty because of the Forbidden Door stuff. Sure. But mainly just dealing with making sure my wife's doing okay, catch up on these New Japan shows, and I'm working. So beyond that,
how's her recovery going? Okay,
she's doing fine. You know, she's a trooper, like I said last week. Never underestimate the pain threshold of a woman before they speak out, because she was going through a lot, and I thank you for asking. And I will let her know. I got a couple of well wishes from some listeners and all that, and I passed it on to her. And frankly, she was surprised, and I will leave it at that.
Well, you know, it's been a very busy week. I haven't watched anything from North America either. I've stayed in Japan because when I haven't been watching G1, I've been scrambling to catch up on the women's tournaments going on, right. And I am still behind. So bear with me, folks. I will catch up. But I've been watching a lot of really good 5-star Grand Prix stuff, some Dream Star, and it's a great time to be a wrestling fan in Japan. We're going to talk about a little bit of Pro Wrestling Noah later, because we have a certain junior heavyweight who is wreaking havoc in that company as well. So
wreaking havoc worldwide, you mean?
Well, as it turns out, right? Yeah, he's a very busy man considering he's not booked at the moment for New Japan. But yeah, Hiromu Takahashi.
Nice little tease for later.
Yeah. No, and what can I say, folks? We tried to get Taylor Swift, but she was already booked for a podcast this week. So bummer there. We almost got her, though. We were that close. I promise.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but let's go with it.
What? You didn't see this? The biggest podcast in the history of podcasts dropped yesterday.
I know about the Kelsey brothers. Yeah. Her going and dropping her album, but different lanes, my man, different lanes.
2-hour interview with that. Oh, she's a big fan. She's a big G1 fan. You don't think?
I heard she likes fantasy football now, so good for her.
Yeah, it sounds like she does. But yeah, it was that was everything that was going on in this house yesterday. It was my girlfriend's a big Swiftie. So that was a big moment for her.
I am lucky in which my wife really just likes to consume murder documentaries and jokes about how if I'm ever to die, no one's ever going to find out how. And, unsettling, but at the same time, she's probably right.
Is it? Let me ask you this. Do you have the HBO Max over there?
Oh, absolutely.
Are you watching the Yogurt Shop Murders thing that's dropping on?
It caught her eye. I don't know if she's seen it already, but I've been at work a lot, and so when she's at home, I have no idea exactly what diabolical thing she has planned.
That's caught the imagination here big time, because it happened here in Austin. The Yogurt Shop Murder. It's one of the 2 most famous crimes in Austin history. There was a very unfortunate sniper incident with the Texas. University of Texas bell tower, a guy in I think it was 1960s, went up there and just kind of started randomly shooting people. That was pretty awful. And then this yogurt shop thing where was one, and HBO doing a multi-part documentary on it, kind of has the town buzzing again, because that was when I first moved here, there was still a billboard in North Austin about the reward, about who killed these girls and things. And it's one of them. It's probably the most famous crime. And it's still in the psyche of the people who live here. Is that though?
I promise we'll get to New Japan in just 1 second. Yeah, but you got me going on this one. Do you remember the kidnapping of a woman from Vallejo, California, where the police thought her boyfriend did it and grilled him while she was kidnapped by this dude and
Yes.
taken for like a few days and then dropped at like her parents' house in Huntington Beach, California.
That's right. I do remember this one. Yes.
So Huntington Beach, California is where I grew up. That drop-off spot, I know exactly where that is.
Oh,
it
isn't
was
that creepy?
blocks away from where WCW had their Bash at the Beach event years ago. It was about a mile away from where that was. And it was about 2 miles from where I grew up. So I'm just like, whenever I see this story, and then like basically the Vallejo Police Department had to eat a bag of crap for basically saying that like they made it all up, and then they found the guy that actually did it. And it was just like, we're very sorry.
All right. So, okay, we got off on a little trip, but you did a wonderful job bringing that back to pro wrestling, by the way. That was brilliant. I wanted to say hello to some of the folks that are joining us live here. Colin, glad you're with us. Brad is here. Excellent. Fernando Zayas is with us. He says, what's up, fellas? And he's asking, has an American-born talent ever won the G1? I don't think
so.
I'll have to go back and look on that one. Just off the top of my head, I think because
had to be like in the 90s and
Canadian. Yeah, I bet someone has. I'll have to go back and look at that when we get there. Colin says there haven't been many Dream Star shows.
Did Norton ever win it?
No, I don't think so. All right, I'm going to go back and I'm going to go look that up while we're
stumped dead in our track right out the gate.
Right, yeah, man, stumped. That's embarrassing, isn't it? Well, we'll take a look at all that. List of winners. Well, I don't think Antonio Inoki is going to cover us here. Oh, yeah, of course. Well, if you want to go back to the IWGP League, Hulk Hogan won the very first one. Since it has been called G1 Climax, I'm looking here. A lot of Japanese names. Kenny. No. How about that? No.
It's called the G1. No, it has not.
Since it's been the G1, Zack Sabre Jr. From England. Kenny Omega is from Winnipeg, Canada. And the rest are Japanese. Is there anyone here that's not? No, that would be it.
Could win it that is American.
Well, I mean, David Finlay was in it until very recently, but yeah, I guess not. So there you have it. We'll have to take a look. Maria Graciela Sayas is here. Glad you're with us as well. And Zach wants to wish everybody Zach Minger a happy National Creamsicle Day.
This guy's amazing.
Who doesn't
Comes
love
in every week, just flies by, wishes us the happy themed day of the day, and I just want to appreciate it because it makes me smarter.
We have the Mr. Softy truck that rolls through our neighborhood every once in a while, and with the music and the whole thing, the ice cream man. Yeah, maybe I'll have to get a creamsicle next time. They're making me hungry for them.
You got a Pavlovian response to the ice cream truck.
It's working exactly as it's designed to work. All right, let's talk about the G1 Climax tournament. We are down to the semis, as I mentioned. First round of playoffs was earlier today. We're going to talk about how we got there. And Jeremy, I figure we will start with the A block. And Colin is saying that Tsuji and Yota, one of his favorite matches of the tournament right there. And Maria saw the Yogurt Shop Murders on HBO, and it's interesting. Yeah, it's going to get more interesting, Maria. Believe me, when you know the whole story, they're going to get into next week. So there's more to it. The A block, we began in Takasaki, which is for Grand Messe Arena. That's about a 2-hour drive northwest of Tokyo. And they drew 2,053 for that one. And that is a huge crowd for Takasaki, which they call Gunma, but Gunma is more of the province. Takasaki is the town. It's not normally a G1 town, but it might be now because that show drew well, about 2,000 when they're usually in the hundreds. But it's a town that usually just gets Road 2 shows, Road to Destruction, Road to Dominion, Road 2. But ended up drawing 2K. It was about the only really good piece of attendance news all week. But that was the
main event or because of the G1?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. I think it was probably just because they were seeing G1. I think it was because they were seeing G1.
The main event helped, but it was G1.
The main event didn't hurt. Yeah. So anyway, that was the A block there. And let's see. That was it started with Bolton and Taichi. And like I said, we're starting with the A block. We had two B block shows this past week. We're going to start with
one up here.
What's up?
Do I have the wrong one up here? Let me switch to the right one. There we go.
Yep, there we go. And so we had Bolton and Taichi. Now, Taichi sold a lot early off of the gut wrenches and the backbreakers. His ribs were sold as being really damaged here. It had a really good ending sequence here, but he was unable to get the Black Mephisto. And in the end, he ate a power bomb and a kamikaze for the final victory. Bolton ended up with 10 points in the tournament. Taichi with just the 6. Of course, Taichi's real victory was just getting in the tournament. And at this stage, Jeremy, Bolton was sweating his tiebreakers, which didn't look great for him, but he was still mathematically in after that match. And, just 10 points for Bolton, double digit tournament for him. And I think he looked light years better than he did the year before. So mission accomplished, I think, for him. I think he did exactly what he needed to do, is just have a good tournament, put some people over, and get mostly victories.
Yeah, I thought both of these guys played to their strengths. Taichi, he can go hard, and Bolton Oleg's signature is these power moves and the agility that goes along with it. So you kind of had a mean guy match with it. And, this is one of those matches where you look at the end of the G1, right? And you see what these guys have done, and both of their stocks have elevated as a result of the things that they have gone through. You're looking at Bolton Oleg as a pretty dominant, never open weight champion moving forward. And you got Taichi positioned as one of these old dads, still got the IWGP tag team title. But now you look at him like, this dude can hold his own, and he may not win all the matches, but he's going to make you fight for your win.
After that, we had Sanada and Ryohei Oiwa, and frankly, the worst match of the tournament. This had no life to it. It was not wrestled well when it was wrestled. They had absolutely no chemistry, and this was just 10-minute, 26-second slog that involved a ref bump and a guitar shot to the head.
Oiwa was a pretty good guitar shot.
That's the only thing you can say good about this match.
I was looking. I was trying.
People have been trying to say that Sanada is having a pretty good in-ring. He's not. He's still not. He just isn't. He seems like he isn't physically capable of really having particularly good matches anymore.
He's the Yano of the tournament.
Except Yano's entertaining, and this was not. Sure. And this just stunk on ice, basically. And Oiwa eliminated. It's not his year. He will have a year. It's not 2025. And
there's a lot of young guys whose year it was not, and it was definitely interesting to see the gnashing of teeth over people getting eliminated, thinking it was for sure going to be their year. So,
I got to question anybody that thought it was
that.
Yeah, me too. I for all the people that, and I'm a fan of Oiwa. I think he's fantastic, and I am puzzled by anyone who I felt like it was going to be him this year. I'm like, based on what exactly? What signs are you getting? It's coming, but sure. There are others.
The whole thing about the G1 this year is you got to make one guy, and everyone else has to fall by the wayside before the one emerges. And so, unfortunately, you're really only getting one babyface at the very end here, and they may not even win it. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's a lot of twists and turns that are coming in this G1. So Ryohei Oiwa, he's not a part of any of that. He's still building, and he's got a lot of potential. I like him a lot. And when it comes to Sanada, he was fine in the tournament. I don't share the saltiness that you have for him. I give him a lot of leeway for the fact that he nearly broke his neck and atrophied his arm, and this is what he can do now. So I'm a little more okay, I'll be a little fair with you. At Wrestle Kingdom with Naito, he got really injured in that match. But you're not wrong. If you're not into House of Torture and you're not into what Sanada's doing, this did not help matters at all. And there's definitely a disconnect with some of the audience that this is going to be a bridge too far. And I get that.
Okay. Well, we'll stop piling on Sonata and move on to the next one here, which is Yota Tsuji and Callum Newman. This was pretty good. Newman's beat up in this tournament. He is beaten up. In this one, you can just see he's hurting, but he is soldiering through it, and he's done a good job. Tsuji hit the Marlowe crash in this one. Newman played that he couldn't even stand up for the Gene Blast, so he ended up hitting the 70 cross to win it. This was a clear win. It advanced Tsuji into a good position with tiebreakers. Newman was eliminated from the tournament, but Callum, another guy similar to Bolton, in the tournament last year, but this year you can see the improvement, and this guy's going to be a star. I mean, he's already well on his way, but I think Callum Newman has a real bright future.
Did you catch the undercard from the show today?
Yes.
Did you catch what they've done with Callum Newman?
With Newman in that one? Go ahead and read it.
Now, as a result of his performance at the G1 and in reflection of everything, and granted in this match with Yota Tsuji, it was clearly Yota Tsuji could pace himself for the entire tournament and could outlast it, whereas Callum Newman couldn't even make it through the rest of this match. And so they were really trying to sell that Newman didn't have the fortitude that Yota Tsuji had to make it through this entire tournament. And Yota Tsuji was basically picking dead bones at the end of this tournament. That's not a great look for Newman, but he was never, no one ever really took him seriously. So the fact that he got into a position where he was a winning you're in scenario with Yota Tsuji is a feather in his cap. And as a result of everything that he went through, he's no longer going to be called the Prince of Pace, Stephen. He's just going to be called the Prince.
Oh. Well, the last person that was called the Prince there turned out all right for him. He's
they're making a lot of comparisons to Devitt with him lately. There's a lot of similarities there, and there are some people on social media that are pointing out like the images and the links, and very quietly that's who he seems to be emulating more and more is Devitt or Finn Balor in WWE rather than trying to parrot what Ospreay has done, which honestly, the distance and time with Devitt, that could really work out for him. Yeah,
I think it might be a smarter move for just what you mentioned. There's no reason to remind everybody of someone who was just there, but yeah. Oh, Brad's asking, who or what is Marlowe that Tsuji is crashing for? That is a brand. It's a little bit of marketing from Yota Tsuji. It's that Marlowe pudding,
or like
yeah. It's a brand. It's a food brand. They have snacks.
Last year at the G1 press conference, he brought pudding cups for everybody from the Marlowe company.
Yeah, he did. I looked for it when I was in Japan. Couldn't find it, but I did look.
Mark.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, I thought it would be a kick to have some Marlowe pudding on the show. When I was over there.
And hi, Brad. By the way, hope you're doing well.
Yeah, sure. But I could not find it at the convenience. It's not carried at the convenience stores, and it's a bit of a challenge to get to a full blown grocery store in Tokyo. With a long story, but it was I couldn't get to just like a full supermarket style grocery store that wasn't in the middle of Shibuya in a big mess. And it was
the way the architecture and the layout is like grocery stores are a little more rural. In a high density area. I get you.
Yeah. And within the very, very busy touristy areas of Tokyo, that's not where they build large supermarkets. It's where they build the small little bars and restaurants to sell things to people like me.
That's inefficient.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It doesn't make enough money per square foot and all that kind of meter there, I suppose. So anyway, the point being, I didn't get the Marlowe pudding, but it's a brand thing. Can you say the guy's making a little extra scratch on the side there, kind of promoting something. So. And then we had Evil and Hiroshi Tanahashi. So this is what we suspected. It was all to put a little bit of heat on Evil and victimize Hiroshi Tanahashi. Evil promised a clean match, which no one believed, and of course it didn't happen. He came out alone, but Fale and Togo came out later and interfered. It wasn't great, but Evil won the match, clinched the number 1 seed, and they will revisit this one matchup down the road as Evil gets to go on to the semifinals and threaten to ruin the whole thing like House of Torture does best.
This was such a tell after Wrestle Kingdom and these guys had their match and Tanahashi was victorious in the biggest stage of them all, and then you run it back on the last night of Wrestle Kingdom or on the last night of G1, and you're like, yeah, we're going to get the same result on that one. Just made me laugh. And you need bad guys. You need bad guys to go into the next round. And as much as you hate Evil, David Finlay is not the big bad guy anymore. It's Evil. And he was always going to be the guy going in and threatening to ruin your time in the G1. And shocking, that's exactly what's happening.
And I know you meant that in the Royal U and all that stuff, but I don't hate Evil at all. I think he can be a really good wrestler when he wants to be. It's the House of Torture gimmick weighs that down. But this was,
I love Evil. Like I'm a huge Evil fan. Like I think that guy's great.
Now we ended with a terrific match. This was really good. David Finlay and Yuya Uemura. So with the way that everything had panned out up to this point, this became very simple at the end. Win and you're in. Finlay versus Uemura. Win and you're in, losing you're out. Here you go. This was a very strong, clean match. You know, Finlay didn't do much heel stuff at all. Again, we keep talking about this, but the War Dogs pretty much just a babyface group now. As a matter of fact, Ishimori is doing more heel stuff than anybody else in there, and it's just a tiny little bit. This the struggle for the deadbolt suplex, which is a kill shot in New Japan. No one gets out of it. It was used really, really well here. There's another example of he would get both arms kind of locked in, and Finlay would, shake his head, no, and fight out of it and things. It adds a real sense of jeopardy, both Uemura's ability to get into it and the other wrestlers' attempts to get out of it. It adds a lot of drama. Uemura even hit a high fly flow in the match. This went 23:01 and breezed by. Did not feel like it was over 20 minutes. Finlay finally got out of that deadbolt thing, like I mentioned, and hit the overkill. And the one thing I thought of, Jeremy, as Uemura was leaving the ring just crushed, is this is exactly the heartbreaking loss that a babyface can go through to set up his ultimate triumph down the road. It's almost better for the babyface to have a loss like this than to just get rocketed toward the top. You can make a case for rocketing to the top, and there's certainly examples of that working. Not saying there aren't, but in Japanese wrestling, babyface story that experiencing adversity and overcoming it, that always works. It's always strikes a chord with the fans there when you work it well. We'll talk about Shota Umino and his struggles with that and that connection, but Uemura has that connection. So breaking the fans' heart before rising all the way to the top, I think it's going to work out in Yuya's favor. Terrific match. Finlay completes the comeback. And now the leader of the War Dogs gets into the playoffs. I think this ticked a lot of boxes that New Japan needed to check.
Yeah. I don't remember when it was, but and I've talked about this before. Sometime in like the February, March, April timeframe on one of those big shows, Yota Tsuji ended up winning a match, and then David Finlay and Evil both came out and like jaw-jacked with him in the ring. And ever since that happened, I'm like, Evil and Yota Tsuji have never really kind of resolved that this year. Like Evil or David Finlay and Yota Tsuji had their stuff, obviously. And so when they were all in the block together, I was like, I think those are the three, and Yuya was always like in the conversation, but he's not a head of a faction. He's not a leader yet. It's not time. We talk about the 3-year plan. Like they've had a 3-year plan to build the next guy. And for a while, they were kind of, is it going to be Yota? Is it going to be Shota? Is it going to be Yota? Is it going to be Shota? And it wasn't that Yota was the guy. It was just that Shota proved he wasn't the guy, but Yuya's not there yet. Yuya's got a year behind. That's not even including the injury time. I think they just picked up where they left off with him. And clearly he's talented. In my mind, he's the ace of the company. Like, far and away, he's, to me, of those 4 guys, the long-term, the guy you build around of those 4. I'm not taking Takeshita into consideration right now. I'm not taking Aaron Wolf into consideration. I'm saying of the Ryohei, Shota.
We don't even know if Aaron Wolf can wrestle.
Right. I want to keep this kind of centralized to these 4 guys, because of like the Reiwa and everything that kind of worked with that. Yuya is the most full package of those guys, but you can miss with him. He's not a surefire thing. And if you shoot him to the moon and it doesn't take, you're screwed. You don't want another Shota situation. Take your time with him. He can win the G1 next year. And I actually kind of think he should. You know, if all things being equal, he's kind of like the early front runner, because he's had 2 absolutely brilliant G1s in a row. He went out on injury, but we were talking about how great he was last year in some of these dynamic matches, and he kept that pace, and he took the G1 by a heat storm, if you really want to look at it like that. And there are a lot of people that will say they're the MVP, like Taichi, Takeshita, but Yuya Uemura had a really great G1. He may not be the MVP, but he is definitely one of the top 5 of this entire tournament.
So at the end of the day, we had Evil winning the block. We had David Finlay coming in second with tiebreakers, and third with tiebreakers, Yota Tsuji. Those are the 3 I predicted at the beginning of the tournament for this block. So I felt pretty good about things there. Yeah, it felt pretty good to be to have all 3 of those right. We'll go into the B block though. Who would they be facing? Because of course there's some crisscross after the block play. You know, the A block the number 1 finisher from each block moves on to the semis. They get a bye, but second place finisher faces the third place finisher from the other block. So they crisscross a little bit there. So that meant that those 2 would be facing people from B block. So let's take a look at what happened with B. When last we left off, we actually had 2 shows to go through. We'll go through the second to last one pretty quickly for the B block, but that was in Yokohama Budokan on August 8th, and 2,400 people showed up for that one. That's pretty good. And that's not a bad number, except last year it was almost 3,000. It was 2,906, so down from last year, closer to what they did in 2023. They had 2,360 for that one, but so down a little bit in attendance in Yokohama, but 2,400 still a decent number of people. And in that one we had El Phantasmo beating Yoshihashi, and that was real good. Yoshihashi took most of the offense. El Phantasmo won with a rally using all of his finishers, the CR2, the CR3, the Thunder Kiss, the whole thing. That was the end of Phantasmo's tournament because he had the Gabe Kidd bye on the final day. So that was the end of ELP there in the tournament anyway. He's continuing on. But Yoshihashi, still technically alive, but on life support going into the last night.
The math was mathing real weird by tonight.
Great-O-Khan got the bye, the Gabe Kidd bye in Yokohama. So there you go there. Then we had Zack Sabre Jr. and Drilla Maloney. A really good match. Zack, of course, won this one. It was Zack's 5th consecutive win and Maloney's 3rd consecutive loss. So those 2 are a little bit like ships passing in the night, heading in different directions there. Maloney and Yoshihashi seriously fading down the stretch after strong starts. From there, Shingo Takagi and Ren Narita. At the time, this one was win or you're out for Shingo. A very dangerous spot for Shingo Takagi. He was on the precipice there. He was having the comeback story a little bit similar to Finlay. But his tiebreakers weren't in as good a shape as Finlay's and would come into play. Lots of house torture stuff in that one. Nagai helped and was effective, actually, in helping. He hit the last of the dragon to defeat Ren Narita, and that kept Shingo alive going into the last day. And a lot of this Yokohama show, Jeremy, was booking for maximum dramatic effect for the block finals. Because in the end, Shota Umino defeated Konosuke Takeshita, and that one was another really good match. It was mostly Umino hanging on and barely surviving as Takeshita would stay on offense. But in the end, he managed to hit the second chapter to win, and it kept him alive. So now we've got a whole bunch of people on 10 points going into that final night. And it was, again, maximum dramatic effect almost everybody except for Kid and ELP mathematically alive for that last day, and a couple of really good matches there. Sabre and Maloney was good. Umino and Takeshita really good. Went 25 minutes, and we went into that final night with a lot of different possibilities.
How many times do you think Ghetto and company double checked their work after they had to have Gabe Kidd forfeit all the matches in order to make sure that the right three guys in the right order still advanced to the next round?
Thank good. In a way, if it has to happen, at least it happened in the first match, so they had time to figure things out. Sure. I mean, imagine if that happens 2/3 of the way through the tournament, you might be screwed.
I mean, I looked at it and I thought, I think there was probably a scenario where Gabe Kidd won a few matches that made it more clear that Shingo wasn't advancing quite as early, or like it took a little bit more time because of some wins that would have, put Shingo behind. Because there were a lot of people holding on hope to that last day that 1% chance that he was going to advance was like going to come true, and it was just like it was not going to come true. Like I felt real bad for the people that were just holding on hope for Shingo, because it just it felt like you could see before this show that like it doesn't look good for Shingo. Even just narrative wise, it just didn't feel that way for him.
Yeah, and you're right. And I did pick him. I knew that I was picking chalk in the beginning of the tournament. I was picking favorites. And but I honestly
wasn't really actually even thinking about you when I was saying that. I was talking.
But I'll explain my logic on that. Is just I simply was puzzled as to who that third would be if it wasn't him. And we'll get into who it ended up being in just a bit when we go into the last night. But I just kind of looked over and I just couldn't put my finger at maybe Narita, maybe Shota, but neither one of those I felt great about. And I just thought, well, they like to have Shingo and Shingo's matches in prominent spots. So I thought maybe they would just go with him to have the good match. I knew he wasn't going to win the tournament, but I felt, so I picked Shingo. I missed that one. I got 5 out of 6 of the playoff people. So I felt I was happy about that. But that was my point on Shingo, is that nobody from this block jumped out at me as the third guy. There were 2 that I felt very strongly about. The third guy I really struggled with in this block.
Yeah, no, I remember our preview conversation.
Yeah.
And I remember you explaining your logic with Shingo, and then I remember explaining my logic. And I felt like I actually kind of turned you around on it, on the conversation that we had that day, but you'd already committed to it, you're already on the radio, you're already live. I'm like, no, I think it's this guy. I'm like, here's why I think it's this guy. You're like, damn it, no, that's actually really good logic.
Yeah, and it was, what can you say? There we have it. But but let's get into the final day. There are a couple of comments here that I think are interesting. Brad mentions Drilla Maloney cutting babyface promos backstage has been interesting and really good. He is a good promo. He's a really good wrestler. Might have gotten a tooth knocked out today, or at least knocked loose in the match there with Shingo, which I don't think is the first time with as hard as Shingo tends to hit. But
I didn't realize Drilla was such a good camper because he's so intense.
He is. Oh boy. You should be embarrassed of yourself. But Maloney has been very, very good in the tournament. I think he has stepped up when they've needed someone to step up. And I said it last week, and I'll say it here again very briefly, that if the current members of the War Dogs don't stay with New Japan, they've got a leader of the War Dogs ready to go. And Fernando,
kicking the tires on that guy like other people are kicking the tires on those War Dogs.
Fernando said that Zack is the best wrestler in New Japan right now. Yeah, and probably the world. I think Maria liked the match. And Crash TV says, what might help Yuya, going back to our conversation about Yuya and his heartbreaking loss, is to have him front a faction, a good opportunity to showcase that he has leadership qualities. At the moment, he seems a little insecure or uncertain, pressure being earmarked a potential future ace. I think it's headed that direction. I think he's going to eventually, maybe not immediately, but eventually inherit Hantai.
It's unsustainable to have 30 people in Hantai and 15 people in House of Torture right now, and having 4 unaffiliated and 2 United Empire, and you know what I mean, and 4 War Dogs. like we're due for a shakeup, and the factions have gone away, and now we're gonna be splitting through. And you know, I don't know how much longer we're gonna be seeing Finlay and Gedo. You know what I mean? Like there are irons in the fire based off of things that have been happening on these shows. So it's not like this stuff isn't like actively in the process. You know what I mean?
So you're still on the bandwagon of feeling like Ghetto's going to turn on Finlay?
I mean, have you been watching these backstage comments and you've been watching like Ghetto saying, you mess up one more time, like you lose one more time, like he's been threatening it, and Finlay just lost, you know? Like I saw Ghetto carrying him out like a little baby, you know, out the side, like holding his like waist down. I'm like, I'm sure this is what Ghetto had in mind when he signed up for needing a rebel and somebody to, you know, take over New Japan. Like, this is all right for Jake Lee to just come in and Ghetto hitching his horse to Jake Lee.
The longest Ghetto was a baby face was probably about a year and a half or so when the crowd turned Okada.
Yes.
And he had that run where he was setting the record for most title defenses. Ghetto was still his manager, still his hype man. Did a lot of the after-match promos, and then eventually, of course, that turned into the Jay White thing, where he left Okada for Jay White. But for about a year and a half, he was. But other than that, he likes to make himself the villain there, put himself on the villain side. So
they've definitely been planting some seeds there with Ghetto's frustration with David Finlay during that loss period that he had. He was getting real salty. So Finlay may have redeemed himself in the short term by winning all those matches, but he then, you know, we'll get that.
By the way, just want to mention this. They've been putting some interesting stuff from the past back up in the suggested ribbon there on NJPW World. And one of them is Togi Makabe versus Shinsuke Nakamura for the 2009 G1, which is a heck of a match. If you wonder why Makabe stays over with the crowd when he doesn't do a whole lot these days, we mentioned a couple of things. One, he is a frequent guest on the various talk shows that appear throughout Japanese television and afternoon, mornings, and things. There's a lot of these things where they just have guests coming in who giving their comments about a cooking segment, you know, where they have people cooking for everybody and they try 3 different things. They like to have celebrities. Makabe does a lot of those. Watch this match and you'll get Togi Makabe a little bit. It's like you'll see it. The other interesting thing about that match, terrific match from Sumo Hall years ago, the G1 finals, but there are 2 young lions, one in each corner, only 2. It's Yoshihashi and Okada in that one. Yoshihashi and Okada are the 2 young lions.
Those were the days.
They were. And and Crash also mentions this. Not sure it helps Yuya hanging on the coattails almost of the more elder statesmen in Hantai, just 4 guys.
I'm with Crash.
Yeah. And almost like Heatstorm needs to lead a babyface. We agree, and I think they're setting him up for that. I think that's coming.
You can't be an ace if you're a second to somebody else. The dude is getting the rocket strapped, and that's why I kind of think that by next year, like he's going to be the guy that everyone's just like, you better win this here, guys. You know, it's just he's ready.
Yeah. By the way, you know who else is doing a lot of those mainstream appearances? Saya Kamatani for Stardom. She's doing a lot of those talk show appearances, and it's she's so engaging and entertaining that more than one of these hosts is just like, how is she a bad guy? Like, what is it like? Everybody seems to like her when she's on it, and then she has to go in.
Bad guys can't be charismatic too.
Well, you know, she's got to be the biggest jerk in Stardom sometimes, and then but she goes on those shows and she's just kind of funny and fun. But that was something that Mina Shirakawa used to do, by the way. She used to be on a lot of those shows too. So if you have that kind of personality, it can help the company a lot. You know, it's to get that Q rating up. So all right. So that is going into the final night, right? Yes. So now we're heading into this is yesterday in Shizuoka. They stayed close to home, by the way. That Gunma show is only about a 2-hour drive out of Tokyo. Shizuoka, not much different, a little further west. But Shizuoka attendance was 1,730. Last year it was 1,607, so up a little bit. They drew 2,000 in 2023, but listen to what they got in 2023, by the way. They got Zack versus Goto and Tanahashi versus Naito. So, can't blame people for showing up for that. Can't blame people for showing up for that one. So that's a weird sentence, isn't it? You can't blame people for showing up. You can. Of course you can. Anyway.
Yes, you can. You absolutely can.
Sure you can. Of course you can. G1 Climax, Block B, though, this is the final night. Shingo Takagi faced Drilla Maloney. Win to stay alive. Again, the tiebreakers were not friendly to either one of these guys, which is why this match led off the block action. Very good match. Of course it was. Another one of those very Shingo Takagi style tough guy matches. Classic stuff where it's just two guys hitting each other hard. Maloney, again, outstanding G1. Last of the Dragon finish in 12 minutes and 6 seconds. Shingo's still alive, of course, like I mentioned at this time. Maloney is out, but did nothing but help himself. In my mind, Jeremy, I don't know if there's been a guy that really stepped forward like, Adam Page, who kind of came in as a guy who was third, fourth in his faction, and then all of a sudden people saw possibilities in him. I feel like that's what we saw with Maloney, a guy that was third or fourth in his faction, and now we're walking out of it just thinking, if everybody leaves, they'll be fine with him. I don't think we would have imagined saying that 2 months ago, but boy is he really brought himself to the forefront.
He took his opportunity and ran with it because he was the replacement for Coughlin. Like he wasn't even original War Dog, but he's come in and he's so seamlessly fit in with the group that, like, he's the definition of underrated. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
he's better in every way than anyone gives him credit for, but he's below Gabe Kidd and below David Finlay in all the conversations. So it's almost like it's not even worth having a conversation with him because he's not the top guy in the faction. So, he's going to get more attention. And all of a sudden in the next 3, 4, 5 months, people are like, wow, you hear the Gorilla Maloney guy? He's real something. And you're just like, yeah, no kidding.
After that, by the way, two guys who used to be in the junior heavyweight division in New Japan, Shingo and Drilla. That's kind of funny to me. After that, we had one of the best matches of the tournament. This was Zack Sabre Jr. and Yoshihashi. It went 17 minutes and 36 seconds. This was a wonderful match. Yoshihashi channeled a lot of Goto in this one. He did the hands together pose that Goto tends to when he gets himself wound up. Of course, the Yoshi going for a little bit of revenge because in storyline, it was Zack that put Goto out instead of his movie role. Zack worked on Yoshi's shoulders a lot to soften him up for those submissions. He has a lot of ways to lock Yoshihashi up, which gives Yoshihashi a lot of chances to show his perseverance and his warrior spirit. But finally, Yoshihashi had to tap out. This match was absolutely great. And one thing I noticed, though, Jeremy, Yoshihashi did not win in the ring after the third match of the tournament. He went out 3-0, had his first loss, then had the Gabe Kidd bye match. So he got his 8 points there, and then lost out the rest of the way and still had great performances every single time.
What a lot of these old guys did. It's like he was the Taichi on the other side, but because he started out so strong with Drilla, and having like the 4, like being up 8 points very quickly, everyone was just like, wow, Yoshihashi. So there's almost like that smoke and mirrors kind of, he could start losing because he was doing so well in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And so losing all these matches on the back end, it almost didn't hurt him at all because of the amount of clout he got for everyone. Like, wow, they really put Yoshihashi out up front real early on in this. That's pretty good. It's like, it was pretty smart booking, but there are matches that happen tonight and the finishes. And like I said, with the math and trying to make sure that like you got in the right order of things, there's part of me that kind of thought Yoshihashi might win this match and
a little bit, yes. Yeah.
Like get one up on him just as like a little bit of an FU to Zack Sabre Jr. at the very end. And it wouldn't have cost Zack Sabre Jr. anything, but it would have just been like a little dig kind of thing. Just I don't know. There was something in the way that it was all lining up that it would have been fun. And, especially with, I actually thought Drilla was going to beat Shingo in the match before, and that didn't happen. which like caught me off guard. But the other two matches was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I know who's winning these next two matches. But it was those two because I felt like I already knew that the results were never really in doubt. Like whether Shingo won or lost, he wasn't moving forward. Whether Zack won or lost, he was most likely gonna win the division if the original like math had done with Gabe Kidd. So like that part was like, I wonder if this is one of those that the results got flipped in order to make sure that the results were where they wanted it to be.
Zack ended up getting 14 points. No surprise. We all felt that Zack was at least going to make post-block play because you want your world champion to look strong here, and that is exactly what happened. So then we went to Shota Umino and Great-O-Khan. Now, Umino was going for revenge here as well because that big loss earlier in the year drove him to shave his head, come back with a new finisher, which he called the second chapter. It all came off of a loss to O-Khan. The loss to O-Khan was not the only reason Shooter did that, but it was the catalyst. So this was a psychological barrier Shota Umino had to overcome, this match with Great-O-Khan. It built some. Umino ended up hitting the second chapter, but that seemed to come out of nowhere to me, Jeremy. It didn't feel like the big back and forth move where it could end any time type of New Japan trope. It just sort of happened, and he hit the second chapter and won sort of suddenly in my book. It was okay. It wasn't the best match on the show, but that did a lot of damage to the field because with Shota getting to 12, it eliminated Shingo, Yoshihashi, officially. We suspected. I said tiebreakers weren't good for them. Maloney and Great-O-Khan, of course. It did not get a huge response from the crowd. Again, that connection, not quite where it needs to be with Shota yet.
I got a distinct sense of boo-boo face from Great-O-Khan in a lot of this match. Like he wasn't really giving his best effort. And I think that kind of stifled Shota's connection a little bit. I'm not saying that he's responsible or anything like that. I validate the Shota connection to the audience, but I think Shota's really actively trying to do everything he can to reignite this connection with him, and it could also be by design. Like he may not be a babyface. He may not be that guy anymore. And you see the new render. Like you finally got a new render, the new physical build, and like there's a new drive and a new sense of, passion with him. I wonder if he's seeing like other people getting the opportunities that he used to get, and he's really, really trying. And that's something that New Japan will play into with his character. Like we have character peaks right now.
I really feel strongly he needs a heel run here. He just needs to get an attitude about it and just be like, you know what? I tried. Screw you people. That really ought to be like his character a little bit. Like I tried to please you, and you're like, I'm done trying to make you people happy. I don't care anymore.
He's never had the single title run or anything yet. He's just not like this is all by design.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm not sure the lack of connection is by design. I think they wanted it. I'm
just saying like he doesn't have a title belt. Like he's never had a single title. And I feel like at this point, that's something that they are actively working with in order to get him to the next level. And I don't know if he's going to have a victorious babyface like title win or if it's going to be a victorious heel title win. But when that does happen, I feel like it's going to be a moment.
I see a lot of comments over here. We're going to get to those after we do our next match because we're going to just kind of review this whole night, but we will get to your comments over there. After that, we had the main event, Konosuke Takeshita and Ren Narita, and this was a simple win and in proposition for these two. So all the other results had boiled this match down to win and in, losing you're out. So they did a good job in the booking to get both main events to that point without giving too much away. The House of Torture attacked Takeshita before this match with Fale and Dick Togo. There was lots of interference. Kanemaru interfered even. Rocky Romero and the Young Lions helped put Fale and Togo out. But again, the numbers game, Kanemaru tried to get the whiskey mist hit Takeshita's eyes, but Takeshita ducked. And it ended up going into Ren Narita's face. He got the crossface chicken wing. and won it. It was not great. It was probably the worst Takeshita match, but still pretty good. Narita tries to wrestle a little bit more than Evil does, but this wasn't a great match, but it had the right dramatic purposes, and Takeshita ends up getting in. So that meant that in the end, the final three to move on, World Heavyweight Champion Zack Sabre Jr., he got the bye into the semifinals. Takeshita finished, I believe it was third, right? And then Shota Umino second to move on.
Mm-hmm. I kind of got the impression that nobody really bought that Ren Narita was going to beat him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they tried in every way, shape, or form to compel you to think that Narita was going to steal this pin. Very, very similar to the evil Tanahashi scenario from the other night. It was fine, you know. Like I was talking with some people, and they noticed that, you know, Takeshita wasn't moving as quickly in this match because he'd been going at fifth gear for the majority of this tournament, and so the engine needed a little maintenance, the body needed a little bit of work, and so this was kind of a slow down and beat him up without doing as much of the Takeshita match that he was doing up to this point.
They also put in a little work in this match for dramatic purposes. Takeshita's knee was being sold most of this one, and that would play into the playoff match for Takeshita that we saw today. So they had a little work to do there that they put in a little time, making sure that you knew that Takeshita was banged up, particularly in the knee category. But he moved on. And now let's take a look at some of these comments here. I want to make sure we get to them before we go on to today's action. Colin mentioned something about Saya Kamatani, that she's not a heel anymore. He said this for months now, and she's constantly on these TV shows. It still feels like she's a heel to me on the Stardom shows anyway. Although not a big, Jeremy, I got to tell you, not as big a heel as the NJPW or the IWGP Women's Champion Sari, who is just getting booed out of the building every time she comes out there for Stardom. I think the Stardom fans are sick and tired of her as an outsider coming in and winning all the time, beating all of the Stardom stars. But she gets almost she doesn't have interference. She's just a great wrestler, but she's almost getting that House of Torture groaning heat, you know, where everyone's like, boo.
I would not have expected that. That's interesting.
I think they're just sick of her coming in and beating people and all that. And she does kind of look a little mystified by her, like, dang, people. But yeah.
Really? Like, I'm just here to wrestle, bro.
Yeah. But in Stardom, you're right, Colin. You're absolutely right. But she is doing a lot of media work. And the fact that they're having her do that says that they know that she's pretty likable. So, and it'll pan out. And eventually she's going to have a big babyface run when she breaks away from hate. I don't think there's much doubt about that. And Crash TV 83, he's got a couple of comments here about Shingo and Drilla I think are worth reading here. Shingo and Drilla work really well together. A lot of prep and concentration in that one. As I recall, Shingo doing his best to level up Drilla further, and both had skin in this. And though Shota won it, it was an entirely selfless win. Seemed that the investment was all in Drilla despite the results of the bout. He worked hard to make sure that you knew that he just barely squeaked by Drilla Maloney in that one. He did a great job putting him over and getting over the struggle. Crash also agrees that Shota would make a great heel and that he already has the heat. Whenever they pull the trigger on this, crowd's going to go right with it. They're ready for it, and I think it's because not even because they don't like him, but they're not feeling the babyface thing, and I think they would feel him as a heel. I just think it'll work when it takes off. You're like, yeah, I'll respond to this, you know, like the bracelet thing, yeah, you know, but this I'll get into once he turns. And Crash mentions here, lean into Shota turning on the fans seems only natural, little buy-in needed. The reality is he probably feels disheartened more so. I think that's probably true. I think the original idea was for him to take off like a babyface rocket and it fizzled out. I don't think this is the long-term plan. I think this is how they're dealing with a situation where they tried really hard last year to make him that good guy, and it just didn't click the way they hoped.
It's a conservative approach, you know, like they have to be careful with it. Like they don't have a whole lot of mulligans left with some of these guys.
Yeah. They need to start getting some of these right. You know, that's the thing. Like, you know, Tsuji, you know, had a lot of these losses and stuff. Like, it's time to start getting some of this stuff right because We need fresh faces on top. The crowd's ready for it. You know, I've said this, the reaction they've had to the matches between these new guys, when it's some combination of Oiwa, Uemura, Tsuji, and even Umino sometimes, and this Takeshita for sure. I feel like the crowd is almost making more noise during these matches to tell the office, yes, this is what we're looking for here, like something fresh. And we'll see how that turns out the rest of the way. So that brings us to today. We just had a show earlier today. It was in Korakuen Hall, 1,500 people in there, pretty full, pretty darn full. You know, if you can't fill Korakuen Hall for the G1 playoffs, that's then we're red alert at that point.
Triple Will Robinson.
The undercard was one thing to speak of. We'll get to it after this, though, because the G1's the important stuff. There's really only one thing on the undercard we're talking about. The rest were post-view tags instead of preview tags. Takeshita and David Finlay was for two really good playoff matches today at Korakuen Hall. Finlay worked the knee that Ren Narita softened up. Takeshita worked Finlay's shoulders to set up for the crossface. A lot of callbacks to last year's match between the two. They did a lot of thought was put into that and calling back to the previous battle. And Finlay ended up power bombing Takeshita through two tables on the outside. That looked great.
I felt that one. I felt like I watched it. I'm like, oh God, you're gonna feel that in the morning.
So good. The final sequence was outstanding. It ended with the last ride, the power drive knee, raging fire. Takeshita moves on. And for Finlay, it's almost a similar spot with Uemura now. And I think if Finlay, if he is in next year's G1, the Finlay fans will be aching for him to make that move and get past this hurdle right there. It's a heartbreaking loss for him. And it puts him in a position where if he doesn't come back, then he's put over a guy that could be the very next big star. If he does come back, it sets him up for this is my Mount Everest. This is the mountain I must climb. So I thought it was effective. And a hell of a good match.
Spicy hot take. I think this might have been a last G1 appearance.
We'll have to see. I'm not convinced as you are, but I understand your point.
I look at it and like you think about his arc in New Japan, and it's coming to a close. You know, if like he's not getting the IWGP title, and it doesn't feel like his trajectory or even the company's trajectory is to go in that direction with him, he's pretty much done everything that you're gonna do. And if he's gonna have a bit of a babyface thing going on at the very end of here, it's like a top babyface thing, I feel like that's pretty much it. I'd like to see him around for another year. I think David Finlay in New Japan is a net positive. Frankly speaking, and I've liked him a lot as the leader of the Bullet Club War Dogs. I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking, you know, if TNA is really going to be like another part of the WWE programming thing, what's to say they don't like sign Finlay, put him in TNA because it's higher than NXT, but not quite the main roster. And then you run back him being a heel all over again and just kind of get him ready for WWE.
Well, I mean, WWE doesn't own TNA now. Let's not.
No. But if you're listening to all the conversations that are happening, WWE is taking TNA and AAA, and they're trying to put them into positions with programming and turn them into direct allies against counter-programming AEW and a number of other promotions.
Well, they own AAA. They flat out own AAA. Not
and
TNA.
There is a heavy interaction with TNA that's becoming more and more clear with the days, and to the point that WWE is actively trying to get them programming on Peacock opposite of AEW Dynamite. And like they're turning into a full court press to basically mess with AEW programming. So I could see a scenario where guys like David Finlay come from New Japan and they really stack up the TNA roster with WWE funds kind of backing it.
Well, the real battle going on over there, and it does affect New Japan, so we'll talk about it a little bit here. The real battle going on with WWE and AEW isn't even only the counter programming. That is certainly a part of it. WWE's long-term goal is to choke AEW off from any new talent.
And television.
And television is actually less important. They have the Warner Brothers deal, but the television thing takes care of itself if they have no talent in 5 years. And the thing, they're trying to shore up all these different ways that AEW can get new people. And so far it's eerily effective. That's like the WWE ID thing, where now they're starting to, get in with some of the people on the indies, choke off the indies from them. Now inroads in Mexico. I wouldn't be surprised if there were inroads in Japan to be made or something like that. But the long-term goal is really to keep new talent away from AEW. And if they can muck around with their big shows in the meantime, that's just the nature of WWE. It's in the DNA. It's in Paul's DNA, just like it was in Vince's, that we have to kill this. So if they have a show, we have to put a show on and try to counter it and try to hurt them in any way. It's
like putting a WWE PLE on the calendar after AEW schedules a show for that same date for the next 3 months is hilariously wild and petty. And so they're literally trying to choke off the points of programming in every way. They're counter programming in any way, shape, or form to the detriment of their own product.
WWE has been doing this literally since Thanksgiving of 1987.
Absolutely. I hear you.
Thanksgiving 1987.
And that's why I'm saying the TNA aspect is just one of those, like, don't rule that out. And I see if Gabe Kidd leaves New Japan, he's going to AEW. If David Finlay leaves New Japan, he's going to a WWE based.
You remember how we talked about Hulk Hogan a couple of weeks ago, by the way?
Mm-hmm.
Did you? I've learned this. I didn't know this. Hogan was scheduled to be at Starrcade 83, and he's in some of the programs. The printed program didn't have a match set yet. And I think they were going to. The theory is they were going to send a match from the AWA to Starrcade 83 to be part of, just as a special attraction thing. But instead, he ended up, going to Japan. Remember when he left AWA, he was on tour with New Japan and sent a telegram back to Vern Gagne saying, "I'm not coming back," because they had him booked for all these.
What a way of doing business, right?
All these Christmas shows. Yeah, what a Christmas present for Vern. You're like, oh my God. And then he ended up coming back and going to WWF. And in January, of course, he ended up winning the WWF title. But Thanksgiving night of '83, originally, Hogan was sort of booked for the Crockett's. And
doesn't work for him, brother.
Doesn't work for me, brother. Yeah, so I talk about an alternate universe thing. And so he was in New Japan, actually, when all that stuff was going down, doing the end of the year. I guess that would have been the tag team tournament tour, wouldn't it have, in December? Yeah.
Well, we went off on a tangent there. Before we get to Shota Umino and Yota Tsuji, why don't we mention that we actually are not going to be back on Thursday, but we're actually going to be back on Sunday this week.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a special episode here for the G1 finals. It'll be at our regular time. We're not going on the air right after the show because it just doesn't make as much sense for us. But here at our regular show time, we're going to do a Sunday show to go over the G1 finals. And we will look back at the tournament. We'll talk about the action from that day in the finals and look ahead to what that G1 winner will mean for the company. So we felt like this one was important enough that we would do a special episode. I haven't done one in a while, Jeremy. And but we're going to do one Sunday. Sunday at our regular time here. So whenever you see us here on Thursday, same time, here on Fight Game Media YouTube, we'll be back with the G1 special.
So that'll be a direct reaction show. We'll still be back on Thursday.
Yes.
And we will probably be doing a top 10, each of us, of our matches and just kind of going through that and then having our own hilarious Forbidden Door preview in the way that this is like the Death Pain Invitational and Taiji Shimori's superhero show. It doesn't matter in the grander scheme of New Japan.
Really,
but I'm going to cover it. We're going to do a show on that Sunday night.
Jeremy's taking the bullet.
Garrett, Steven has a little too much sodium in his diet. He's a little too salty. And so he has decided that this may not be the avenue in which he wants to present himself. to the wrestling world.
I am out on Forbidden Door, people. I'm out.
He is forbidden himself from watching it. And I'll be checking out. It's a day show. It's a Sunday. It's whatever. I get to hang out with Espresso.
It's a waste of time is what it is. It's a waste of
time.
All right.
Yeah, we'll be doing the preview show, and then I'll be covering it next Sunday, and then we're back to it every Thursday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern.
All right. So, all right. Yeah. Now that we've gotten that kind of housekeeping out of the way, Yota Tsuji, Shota Umino. So they went all the way back to their young lion days for inspiration in this match, Jeremy. Of course, Tsuji was a finalist in the G1 last year. So anything short of that would be seen as a bit of a step back. A lot of pressure on him going into this one against Shota. Interesting note there, by the way, we talked about Takeshita. He's going to face Zack Sabre Jr. in the semifinals. Zack beat him, stopped him, had the referee stopped it in Osaka, which is Takeshita's hometown. So definitely a bit of a revenge on that one for Takeshita against Zack. Tsuji against Umino, though, they went all the way back to their young lion days to talk about this one because Umino was a step ahead, maybe a year ahead of Tsuji in young lion world. And as we know with Murashima, and we've seen over the years, if you're a year ahead, you're the one that is getting the victories in those young lion versus young lion matches. The senpai goes over the kohai. Anyway, there was even a long young lion inspired Boston Crab spot where Tsuji put Shota back in the young lion style Boston Crab and hurt his back on that one. But there was a wonderful big move segment in this one. Tsuji seems to be portraying a lot of anger from those young lion days. But toward the end, he showed Shota something that he had learned on excursion that Shota was not ready for, and that is the Guerrero special, a move that Ultimo Guerrero uses as his finisher in Mexico. It really did. So now, all right, you had the advantage on me as a young lion, but I learned this one while I was away on excursion, and now that I'm back, I best you here with this. So he hit that Guerrero special, ended up hitting the Gene Blast soon after.
I don't think he's ever hit the Guerrero special in New Japan Ring before.
I don't think he has either.
I'm
not sure he hit it in Mexico. Guard. That's Guerrero's move. I don't think he
was so off guard. I was like, oh, this is it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I watched it maybe an hour before the show. We went on the air because I kind of had a morning behind me, and I didn't know who had won. I had a feeling, but when we got to that finishing sequence of this match, I'm like, oh, that's it. You know what I mean? Like you saw that, and I'm like, oh, Shota's done. Let's wrap this up.
Getting past Okan and getting revenge for that match was Umino's big step forward here, but Tsuji has more business here. He has Evil in the semifinals. Evil even had, Tsuji even had words of encouragement to Umino afterwards, just saying, I know you're going to come back and we'll be doing this again someday. Very babyface thing for Yota to say, despite being in the unaffiliated faction. And this also struck me, Jeremy. They first met as Young Lions in 2018. So it's been 7 years, and Tsuji is just now kind of being launched, so to speak. So it just shows what the pandemic slowed everything down, of course, but 7 years since those Young Lion days for these two.
Man. It takes a lot of time.
Well, it shouldn't take this long, but I mean, the pandemic shot a couple of things in the head there where they just couldn't get things done. But anyway, 7 years later, Tsuji is on to the semifinals against Evil. Heck of a good match. Another really good match right here. So the folks at Korakuen saw some really good wrestling in the semi-main and the main event.
The G1 booking rears its ugly head again. We have the semifinals being Zack Sabre Jr. and Takeshita. You remember July 30th? Mm-hmm. Zack Sabre Jr. beat Takeshita in that match.
Right. Yeah, he sure
So
did.
I kind of inclined to think that Takeshita is going to move forward on this one. And then way back on July 22nd, you and I had this conversation. It's like if Tsuji loses to Evil, you can circle that one, and we're running it back in the semifinals.
Yeah.
Or we're running back in post-block play, and look at that. Here we are.
And Crash mentioned those Tsuji shops on Shota could be heard around the world, and they definitely could. So let's look at the semifinalists we have here, Jeremy. And, of course, the semifinals will be Saturday. We got tomorrow off. Saturday at the Ariake Arena. That's a big building over there in Tokyo. And then Sunday, they're back in the same building for the finals. so we have Zack Sabre Jr. He's the world champion. He doesn't need to win the G1. The G1 is all about establishing a new challenger. I feel like Evil doesn't need to win the G1 to be evil, and meaning that he's already the faction leader. His job is to threaten to ruin everything.
Mm-hmm.
But if he loses here, he's still the number one heel in New Japan. Just like the pure heel, not trying to be cool, not trying to have fans, just hated guy right there. So I don't think he needs to win it. Takeshita still part-time, so you want to be a little bit cautious right there. So I am sticking with my original prediction of Yota Tsuji over Konosuke Takeshita in the finals. Tsuji made the finals last year, fell short. So this is the next step forward for him. And for Takeshita, he made the semifinals. This year he can make the finals, still take a step forward. But again, he's not full-time, so maybe not this year with Takeshita. And I'm sticking with my original prediction. I think I'm bringing it home on Sunday. It's going to be Yota Tsuji, I think, my guess for Sunday's winner.
One of the things that stuck out with me was seeing that Voices of Wrestling right after Sam said closed all his stuff and the G1 started, that apparently it was this big open secret that Takeshita was going to win the G1 this year. And I was like, okay, sure. And it's not
maybe he will.
Right. But I'm not really inclined to think that he's going to win it if he's going to beat the IWGP champion in the semifinals.
Yeah.
You do that, you've already got your title shot.
Yeah.
And you set up a lot more interesting scenarios if Zach has to put that title on the line, in September or October. And I remember looking you dead in the eye and saying, how can they run this back and put Zack Sabre Jr. in an IWGP title match at the Tokyo Dome when you saw what the draw was when you put him in the main event last year?
I know. And we love Zach, but we can't, we also can't argue with those numbers. So those numbers were a little freaky.
So in my mind, are you really just going to do the same thing again? And that's why when he won the title against Goto back in late June, early July, I was just like, there's not a chance that he's going to have the title come Wrestle Kingdom. It just, there's a synchronicity of him winning the title off of calling his shot after the G1 and him losing his title off of someone calling their shot. From you know what I mean? There's just something there. And look, if Takeshita wins, I got no skin in this game. I'm going to come back the next week and we're going to have a conversation about whatever happens on Sunday. And we're still going to do a show on Thursday. And New Japan is either going to respond or stay the course. And it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things because we're a fan podcast about a pro wrestling company and the booking decisions that they make. We're here either way.
Yeah.
But in my mind, there's only one really bad option of winning the G1. There's one middling option. The bad option is Evil. The middling option is Zack Sabre Jr. And then you have two really good options that you can go in a different direction with both Yota Tsuji and Takeshita. They're both fantastic talents. USVA guy says that, the traditional New Japan fans are probably going to be pretty upset with Takeshita because he's not a full-time guy. And no matter that he has a contract or not, he is not perceived as the guy going on tours and is on every show.
Right.
He is splitting his time between 2-3 different promotions. And given that there's already a tenuous relationship with the audience and getting them to be compelled to show up for that, that's a big risk.
Mm-hmm. I'm really curious to see what the crowds are like in Ariake for the semifinals and the finals. I'm hoping that some of this momentum builds, that they're just seeing really good wrestling and that people will have a healthy walk up because, people just say, well, these matches will be excellent and go. I hope for the company's sake right there. But we said going into this thing that attendance probably wasn't going to be great, and it hasn't been. It hasn't been. And Ariake Arena is a big room. That is a big room. So with
can
that
I add one more thing before we move on from the G1 real quick?
Yeah.
So we are a prize package for the G1 Sportive Pro Wrestling tournament. And so I've been paying attention to seeing who's been doing that. And, you know, I felt really good about the fact that I got all 6 people correct on the block thing. And I looked at my score today, and I'm not really looking to win, but I was a little bit validated in our conversation, Steven. 19th place.
Okay. Out of how many?
Out of 700.
Yeah, that's great. That's very good.
So I'm like sitting there going like, all right, the process is correct. Like,
well, look, I mean, I had 5 out of 6 right. Jeremy is 19th out of 700 over here. So, folks, if you want to know what's going on, this is the correct show.
Yeah,
you're listening to the right show, and you get it for an hour and a half a week. An hour and a half. That's all.
So,
yeah. Nice
hopefully, whoever wins that $50 gift card to PWTs, I hope you really enjoy it. I hope you get your favorite Drilla Maloney towel and or Ren Narita push-up bar.
I tell you what, they debuted a new unaffiliated T-shirt. Daiki did today. I don't know if you saw it, but it looked really good. And some of their merch, just the plain unaffiliated.
So like the lion mark and then the affiliated like writing,
but just the black shirt with unaffiliated and kanji written across it. I kind of wanted one of those. I think that's some cool merch they've got going. Okay, a couple other news and notes now. Today. Most of the undercard was forgettable, nothing really, except for the very first match, which was Taichi teaming with Satoshi Kojima. And we had to get in the Wayback Machine for this one. It brought up a lot of old wounds from when Taichi turned on Kojima and the Kojima-gun faction back in 2010 to join Suzuki-gun. So a 15-year story is going on here. And they did not get along in this match. They both ended up clotheslining each other at various points, malfunctions and junctions. And afterwards, Taichi refused to shake Kojima's hand. So it seems like there's a little mini angle going there for Taichi and Kojima to move toward burying the hatchet. They're just not ready yet to do so. Or at least Taichi isn't. But yeah, that goes all the way back to 2010 when a very young Taichi turned on Satoshi Kojima and Kojima-gun to join up with Minoru Suzuki. That was the only other thing from the show that was really worth noting off the undercard.
I like that they're putting all those young lions with mentors.
Sure.
You know, Daiki Nagaya is now with Shingo. Masatori Yasuda is with Taichi, I think. And then
both of them Hokkaido guys.
And then which one is with Tanahashi now? Shoma?
Murashima.
Murashima. And Tanahashi is basically like, don't ever lose that belly, buddy. Like that's your moneymaker right there.
It's funny. And Murashima is overplaying the air guitar, getting carried away with that.
Oh man, he got a ass kick for overplaying that air guitar.
Shoma Kato is the other one. He has been mostly with Yoshihashi.
Right. Good. I'm still like I don't write them all down, and so I'm still like getting all 4 of them mixed up because I'm a jerk.
I'm just a young lion nerd on that stuff. I love watching the progression of these guys. So yeah, that's who's with
we have Noah notes. Is that something that we have?
We have Noah notes. Indeed. While all this has been going on, our own beloved Hiromu Takahashi has been nosing around the Noah ring, and he will be challenging Yohei for their junior heavyweight title. He will also apparently be challenging Kyle Fletcher for the TNT title. So racking up the air miles.
Any of the Kyle Fletcher New Japan stuff at all?
No. I'm honestly.
Ishii versus Kyle Fletcher was a very good match.
It almost certainly is, but I don't have time. I am out on North American stuff right now.
That's totally fine, but there is a responsibility that I feel to. Yes, it's on AEW. Yes, that it is not typically the New Japan beat, but it was a very good match on Collision this past Saturday. Ishii versus Kyle Fletcher. I was of an opinion. We'll get to it a little bit. Okay. What other stuff do we have going on?
Well, it was announced that there's a historic crossover, but it is taking place in Guangzhou, China on October the 5th. And we will have talent from the Infin promotion that's based over there. So the Infin promotion will be going. And then representing New Japan will be Master Wato, Ninja Mac, Kushida, and Zack Sabre Jr. And that's going to end up being Ninja Mac against Wato in a match there. Zack Sabre Jr. will face Kushida in China. And there will be talent from Stardom. according to the promotional art for this one, these are the names that are on it. Of course, this is subject to change, as all cards are. But Starlight Kid, Saori Anou, Natsupoi, Miyu Amazaki, Ruaka, Natsuko Tora, and Rina are on the promotional art for China on October the 5th. So that's an interesting thing. Historic crossover in China. They're calling it historic crossover. I don't see mixed tag matches yet, but so far the only announced matches have been Watto versus Ninja Mac and Zack versus Kushida. So I guess they could do something.
What makes it historic this time?
That it's in China, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, and Colin mentions Kenta, former New Japan talent, and now the GHC heavyweight champion, against Marufuji on a big Noah show, or he was anyway. And then Brad mentions Ishii and Hiromu teaming last night was weird. Yeah, that's
super weird.
Combo. And then after the match, Ishii raising Hiromu's arm, and even he looks surprised and happy.
Strange bedfellows.
I'm looking at this show and just talk to us a little bit about what matches have been announced for Forbidden Door, because there is a lights out match that is the microcosm of why I refuse to give a flying crap about this show. It just, New Japan has been a second-class citizen in this Forbidden Door relationship since the very beginning. And the way this is disrespecting the booking of New Japan by putting this trash match at the end of the show shows exactly why I am out on this whole thing. Go ahead and talk about it.
I love you, but I have to warn you, I'm cutting all of that out of the clip that I eventually make. Because right now, we're going to do a segment called Why is this match on Forbidden Door?
All right. Yeah, let's play a game.
We're going to go through all the matches, and we're going to somehow justify why this match is on Forbidden Door.
Good luck to us. All right. Why is this match on Forbidden Door? This match is Nick Wayne and Kip Sabian against Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. Jesus Christ.
Why, Steven, I have an answer for you on this one.
Oh, yes. Go ahead.
If you remember, apparently Christian has a relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling because he sent his young ward at one time to the Best of Super Juniors.
Oh, so shut up.
This is an adjacent New Japan match because we have a Best of Super Juniors representative on one side in which the other AEW team is intent on vanquishing. Thank you. Next.
Yeah, thank you. Next. Is there any chance that we can just, all right. The quicker I can stop talking about
your reaction to this is feeding me.
The rated R mediocrity and Christian Cage. Oh, Jesus.
We have 9 matches scheduled for this show already.
No, there are 9?
There are actually 9 matches ready to go.
Oh, no. How long is it? Okay. All right. What's next?
We have Kyle Fletcher versus Hiromu Takahashi.
Hey, that'll be a good match.
That'll be a good match. It'll be a good match. It may not be as good as Ishii and Kyle Fletcher, but I think that Hiromu is going to bump like crazy for him, and Fletcher is going to make him look awesome.
Jeremy.
Yes.
Over under 8 minutes.
Over.
You think so? They're actually going to give this one time? Because this is exactly the kind of match that Tony tries to cut off and move on from so he can do other garbage.
Oh, no. He loves Kyle Fletcher. He's going to make him look
all right. You think he's going to
he is all in on this dude. Like, everything I see of Kyle Fletcher is like strap a rocket to him.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. I am very confident that he is going to get time on this one.
All right. Well, this one doesn't make me want to barf. This one does. The lights out steel cage match.
The main event.
Try for a single second, an iota of time, Jeremy, to justify why this piece of trash is going on my. It's not going to be on my television. This is your problem, not mine. Talk about this steel cage match.
You mean the dog pound cage match?
Oh.
What is it other than a dog pound cage match? You've got 5 people on both sides inside a cage beating the crap out of each other, in which you have maybe 3 healthy wrestlers of 10 that will be able to do actual physical wrestling moves rather than, spots that will require less on their bodies but require more blood to be seen.
All right. Now remember, a lot more people listen to us as a podcast and watch us live, so we want to do this for everybody here. So on one side, you have Jon Moxley, who is the three biggest ratings killers of AEW. If you look at the breakdown quarter by quarter, the three people, and I'm not joking about this, if you want to see the audience fly out the door and flee AEW programming, put on three people: Jon Moxley, Huey, and Dewey Jackson. All three of them are on one side
Max
of this
and
thing.
Jeremy Buck.
Huey and Dewey and Louie now. Now we got Louie. So then Gabe Kidd, who's hurt and doesn't belong in this match, and doesn't belong on that side of it because he's been put with the Death Riders for no reason, and they can't come up with an actual logical reason. And Claudio Castagnoli, who can wrestle. There you go. So we got 1 out of 5 there that can actually go. On the other side, we have the zombie who used to be Kota Ibushi and who hasn't had a good match and I don't know how long. Yeah, Kenny Omega, who is still pretty good. Will Ospreay, great, right? Darby Allin, who has climbed down from Mount Everest, finally, somehow didn't die, thankfully. He'll fall off of things effectively. Darby will fall off of things. That'll be his job in this match.
I think Darby's the only healthy one of those 5.
And Hiroshi Tanahashi. What the hell is Hiroshi Tanahashi doing in this match, Jeremy? Try to justify this one to me. I thought so. There you go.
Because Hiroshi Tanahashi said yes.
Yeah. Well, hey, who needs a storyline when you can just barf a match out?
Tanahashi. This is gonna get him into a ring with Tanahashi. That's kind of cool. But this is basically, let's get as many people who have worked in New Japan at one point or another into one ring together, and we can call this like the main event. And that's really what it looks like to me, is that you've had 9 of the 10 people have wrestled in the New Japan ring, and even at the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah. I guess, what, Darby's the only one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
So that's a fair point. There, you have 9 out of 10 people that have wrestled New Japan Tokyo Dome events.
Yeah, Brad said Ibushi had 2 good matches on Dynamite. Okay, but I mean that guy is shot.
I think that he did fine given his limitations, but I'm either going to support people slagging him or support people saying that he looks amazing. He's fine and he is perfectly acceptable in 2025 to me.
All right. Yes. Well, yeah. Okay. Well, this match makes no sense. It makes absolutely zero sense whatsoever. So it's a bunch of guys doing stuff, if anything encapsulates AEW, it's a bunch of guys doing stuff. There you go. So I guess it's the most AEW match on the show in some ways. Then we have a TBS Championship 4-way match. Alex Windsor from AEW is talented. And then who else? Persephone from CMLL. She's talented. We have Mercedes Moné. She's talented. All right, so good sign. And then what do we have? A Stardom wrestler to be named later? They can't bother to tell us, huh?
What do you think, Bozilla?
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
You're the one who watches Stardom. Do you have
she's in the Grand Prix though. She's in the
right. That's what I'm saying. Is it somebody from the Grand Prix? Does the Grand Prix end? What is the coordination? When does the Grand Prix end?
Well, I mean, there are other Stardom wrestlers that aren't in the Grand Prix that could be there.
This is what I'm asking. Are there the chances of it being someone in the Grand Prix? It's kind of like when we were trying to decide who was going to show up in AEW based off of who was already booked on that card. That's what I was asking. Did you have any
I don't have the 5-star Grand Prix schedule in front of me.
Gotcha. I didn't know. I didn't mean to put you on blast.
That's fine.
I just wondered if you knew offhand if there were some possible people that would be available given the schedule.
I cannot help you off the top of my head, but I will say this: anybody from Stardom is going to be pretty good. They don't have any bad wrestlers really that they would even put in this situation. And then the 3 people that are announced: Persephone, Alex Windsor, Mercedes Moné, all 3 talented. So, and Brad thinks it's going to be Saki Kashima, and she's going to win in 15 seconds. That would make me extraordinarily happy. That would be funny. That's good comedy. If Saki Kashima.
This is for Mercedes' title, the TBS title. Why is
TBS Championship 4-way? Why is it on Forbidden Door? Why is anything?
The women's matches feel a little less thought out than the men's matches. So
That's terrifying. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Are we just doing random draw? All right. What's next?
The cash-in for Athena for her Casino Gauntlet Battle Royal. This will be probably a fantastic match. And I say, why is it on Forbidden Door? Because Toni Storm used to be a Stardom wrestler.
That's about it. And Athena has appeared for Stardom.
Yes.
That's about all you get.
At the Tokyo Dome in a 4-way match. And actually suffered her first loss in a very long time as a result.
And she also appeared at Korakuen Hall for Stardom in that area too. But no, it'll be a terrific match. It doesn't belong on Forbidden Door. It should be given a more prominent spot than that because these two are outstanding. But there it is. Unified Championship. Well, we know why this one's here. We got Kazuchika Okada. He's a New Japan guy, right? Still thought of that way. He's the AEW Unified title, which isn't actually unified, against Swerve Strickland. Again, this is really not. I mean, we know why it's here because it's Okada and there's New Japan people around. But this is an AEW match. You
didn't see any of the build up to this.
No, I don't watch this.
I know. I was getting there. You didn't see this. But you couldn't find two people who were less interested in a build to a match with each other than these two. Like
Okada has been on a paid vacation since he got to this company.
There was no chemistry between these two whatsoever in their face-off last night. And I'm sure they're going to have a pretty good match, but they're already setting up all the cues that Swerve is losing this and giving all the reasons ahead of time. Bad knee, can't train, they're subtly mentioning it to just set the groundwork that, when he loses, he's got a reason.
Now, Okada has not tried, just since he left. He figured out he didn't need to. He said, oh, wait, I can make this much money and not do anything? Hot damn. Great. He hasn't done anything since, really. I guess the Omega match he tried a little bit over there. Mm-hmm. And here's a match that I guess Adam Page versus MJF for the AEW World title. You have a pretty sad excuse for a world champion against MJF, who at least has some interest, I guess, from the fans. But again, except from Adam Page having been in AEW, how many years ago? A long, long time ago. This match has nothing to do with New Japan at all.
He was a Bullet Club New Japan member. I remember seeing him for title matches for the U.S. title.
But he hasn't been a part of anything in New Japan seriously since AEW started.
Yeah, this one doesn't really make any sense, but the only reason I could justify it is because Adam Page won't work for New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, other than that, and I mean, geez. Okay.
But I mean, it's their main event. It's their Swerve is a New Japan wrestler as well. I don't remember that, but we're gonna go with it.
Yeah, made such an impression that a New Japan podcast doesn't remember. Okada's bank account says thank you since he signed with AEW. Heck yeah, it does. Paid vacation.
We'll do a little more in depth. There's a Hurt Syndicate match with the winner of FTR and somebody else that's in there.
Oh wait, who isn't Zach wrestling somebody eventually?
Yeah, I got him right here. It's the winner of FTR versus Brodito, and then Zack Sabre Jr. is going to be wrestling the winner of a 4-way match.
Who's in the 4-way?
Daniel Garcia, Lee Moriarty, Hechicero.
Okay, Hechicero.
And Nigel McGuinness.
Okay, so let's look. Daniel Garcia and Lee Moriarty, utter nobodies.
Have
no
Nigel McGuinness, Steven.
That's at least interesting. Hechicero would be a good match. Nigel would at least be interesting. But they've done it 4
times in the last year.
I know. I'm saying
not a match to do at Forbidden Door.
Well, Nigel at least would have some British intrigue to it, and I mean they're in London, so I mean you can see where it's going.
You've literally done Hechicero and Zack Sabre Jr. I think on AEW.
Well, I mean that's fine. I mean that would be that would at least be good. Nigel would be interesting.
Nigel.
Yeah. Okay.
I would eat my hat if it were Nigel. And yeah.
Okay.
It's Nigel.
But is there a more throwaway world title defense ever for the like this is I mean
for the IWGP?
I suppose the anniversary show, well that's not even a title match, is it? When the world champion would face the junior heavyweight champion. Other than that, I mean, this is the most throwaway world title defense I can think of.
Yeah, I mean,
if USVA guy, imagine the star Hangman would be if he actually stayed in New Japan. Maybe, I don't know. He has a tendency to. Yeah, I'm not either. The one thing we learned is he stepped up in that G1 when there were no expectations of him, and that was good. He did very, very well. Every time there are expectations of Adam Page, he falls flat on his face. I'm a
huge Adam Page fan. I'm just keeping my mouth shut here.
He's not good. He's
not
that
disagree,
good.
But I love you.
I know, but he's not that good.
I'll let you have the last word. What else we got?
There's none. That's it, right? For the AEW thing, we're done.
So I think.
Thank God.
I think we hit everything in 135 instead of 130. So I'm feeling pretty good about that.
All right, so there you have it, folks, and we will be back on Sunday, and we will be doing a show right here at our usual time. So that is 5:30 Eastern, where we will go over the G1 Finals Day, and then we'll be back here next Thursday. That's not an instead of, that is in addition to. So we'll be back here at our regular time next week to talk about all things as Forbidden Door approaches, any other news that comes in, and I'm sure there's going to be fallout from the G1. We're also going to pick our favorite matches from the G1. So for the folks that haven't had time to watch all this, don't blame you. You have lives. We can at least point you in the direction of the best of G1 Climax 35.
I am generally sure that by the time we go live next Thursday, the Dynamite will have aired and the Collision spoilers will have been revealed. So everything that we really need to know for our Forbidden Door preview, more so than we did this week, because this was more for fun, trying to justify why it was on Forbidden Door. We'll be going into that. So we should be as complete minus social media announcements as possible for 0 hour on that Sunday.
So USVA guy, he said, I might be flying out to London. I'll let you know if the office sends me. That'd be pretty cool if they do. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. London's always nice. Get some Nando's and some curry. And then Brad mentions, can I sign a petition to have a weekly AEW segment to end this show? What are you trying to do to me, Brad? What are you trying to do? Are you just trying to hurt?
This is the best time of year for you, Steven. You're so pissed that you have to cover AEW.
Look, I get so angry with AEW because there's so much potential there and so much talent on that show, and it is what it and that show is the show, and I'm just like,
Garrett
that
actually
is what they're doing with these guys. Oh my God.
Garrett actually thinks I hate Tony Khan based off of conversations that I have with him and Dave and all this stuff, and I don't. I think Tony Khan has accomplished an unbelievable amount, more so than anyone could ever have thought in the pro wrestling business. And he has been a net positive for the entire thing. But at the same time, he makes decisions that absolutely frustrate me. And I wonder, what the hell are you doing? And he'd rather book matches than promote matches. And there are things that he could do that could be better. And there are people that are very apologetic for the way he does things, which is just like, nah, man, no.
Very, very dramatic of you, and that's. I know this is a bit of a minefield for you in a lot of ways. So we'll end with that for today.
Yeah.
So,
but I do actually think that Tony Khan is a net positive for pro wrestling, and it's not even a question.
It certainly is in terms of becoming an actual alternative, so that some of these guys can get 1,000%. The money closer to the. They don't get anywhere near the money they deserve. None of them do, frankly. I can't think of a wrestler who actually makes maybe Brock makes more than he deserves. How about that? But which is $1 more than
I'm never going to cry over like how much money Tony Khan is making or not making, but I am going to be happy that he is making sure that people who put their bodies at great physical risk and trauma are taken care of.
And I don't mean that as he's overpaying. I mean, he's creating an environment where wrestlers compare the two companies off each other and get paid at some of the top, and that needs to exist. So that there's that. We'll say that for that. But
any more comments that we need to hit up?
No, that's about it over there. Colin says, yeah, let's not do that as far as the segment. I think he's looking out for my welfare. Thank you very much, Colin.
Mental health is important.
It is. So with that in mind, we will step away from this one. And with that in mind, we'll step away from this one and wrap up this episode of Speaking of Strong Style. We'll be back on Sunday for the G1 special. So for Jeremy Finestone.
Wow! You!
What is this? This is episode 170 what?
Finestone. It's not even my real last name, but you couldn't even get that right. Dang it.
That is the first time I botched that. First time. Jeremy Finestone. I'm Stephen Conway. This has been Speaking of Strong Style. We will talk to you again real soon.